in the scenes where the animals are in action, it does become, Grant wanted something that you really could, that really would be rewarded by multiple readings, but it also, to some extent, it had to work as much as possible in a simple way. Now, these pages are much more challenging because there's so much information in them, but this is a double page spread, so you're kind of holding it 10 inches away from your nose or whatever anyway, but you've got the top panel, you've got the soldiers running down the hill and a truck, you know, a jeep driving down the hill. And if you ignore all the small panels on the top just now, you've got a strobe action of the dog going from left to right, diving, shooting his guns, diving through the windscreen of the truck, out the back doors, and then he lands on the hillside and fires a missile. We don't know where yet, but it turns out it's into a helicopter that explodes the next page. All the inset panels you can read in order, but they're all tiny close-ups of this scene that you're actually only seeing from a distance. So, starting from left to right, you've got the shell casings flying through the air, then you've got the shell casings coming out of the back of one of the bits of the dog, then you've got the dog's claws, or, you know, at the front of its cannon, it's artificial claws, and the flare from the guns. Then you've got perfectly shaped bullets held in a moment in time through all these bits of shattered windscreen. Then you've got one of the bullets right in front of an eye. Then you've got something, you know, like the blood coming out the back of a helmet. Then you've got a close-up of the bullet all folded up, and so on. And it just goes on like that, you know. You've got the foot, you know, like on the trying to brake on the brake pedal, and then coming off again. But everything's arranged depth-wise, so the stuff that's higher up, you know, in the panel, like people getting shot in the head, all those panels that are at the top, and the stuff down at the bottom is like the gas pedals and stuff. It's not easy to see in this, but they're down near the bottom of the truck wheels, and you've got like a tooth flying out, a foot, then a lucky rabbit's foot that you'd seen earlier on, dangling from the windscreen. You don't need to get, or you shouldn't get all this in your first reading, because it would take too long. But it's just a dog diving through the truck, and there's lots of tiny images of carnage. Obviously, we couldn't really suggest that they can smell and sense and feel, and, you know, like, and see and kind of think action-wise much faster than we can. But
that's what it looks like there to me.
But yeah, I mean, that's obviously part of it. But the panel below is just the cat up the tree firing his pins at all the soldiers down below. But on the right-hand side of that panel, the branches of the tree actually become part of the gutters, where you break up into these mini panels. And the bottom left one is actually, the top left corner of the big long bottom spread is the trucks, and the soldiers jumped out the back of the trucks. Then the one just below it is a soldier creeping about nervously, and then the one at the bottom is a soldier turning round and looking up at us. And there's the silhouette of the cat's head right in the bottom left-hand corner. But running across the way above the cat, you've also got the cat leaping about from the branches, but each time you see the cat leaping, he's actually in a little individual frame himself. But just glancing at the panel, you're meant to just think, well, there's the cat up the tree firing his pins. Then there's a couple of insets of the cat's eyes, one with fully dilated pupils, and then the pupil just snaps shut, because that's what cats do just before they attack. And then you've got a few close-ups of the claws coming out, and then the wee pins firing out of between the claws, and then you've just got this mishmash of images, like you've got the hand holding the gun and then a pin going through a nail, you've got somebody screaming as a pin goes through their tongue, and then just below that another one where it's actually a pin's breaking one of their teeth, and then there's, you know, like a burst eye and blah blah blah, and you've got dents in the front of the helmet as kind of 3/4 of the way to the right of the panel. You've got from the top, you've got the pins flying out towards us, one of them glinting in the sunshine. Then you've got the dents in the helmet, as they've obviously gone right in through the metal. Then you've got the soldier dropping down onto his knees with blood running down his face, but obviously not coming out of the helmet because it wouldn't. And then you've got him falling flat onto his face. So even though you can read it just as a random jumble of carnage, it does actually work kind of left to right and top to bottom in a number of different ways. So, as I say, I mean, these are pretty much the most complicated, visually, you know, like confusing looking pages in the comic, because most of it is still always about that thing about simplicity, but, you know, Grant was really pushing me to try and do something.
But in a way, because that implies a different sort of perception. In a way, it's sort of quite, there's a preciseness and you know, it's appropriate in a way that the quieter scenes were appropriate in.
Yeah.
So it's you're using the form and the content to mesh together, which is sort of what you want, isn't it, really?
It took us ages to come up with this, and I say us because, you know, Grant was literally over my shoulder while we were trying to sort this out, saying, no, that's not special enough, it's not different enough, it's not, you know, it doesn't get the idea across. But he was really, he wasn't just a great help in getting this stuff sorted. I wouldn't have actually gone to this length had he just described it the way he normally describes things. It was because the pages of script for this were really, really sparse, because he wanted me to come over to his house or meet him in the Burrell collection, which is the cafe in this museum, because he wanted to sit there and keep saying, no, Vin, that's not what I want, that's not good enough. And so it was very much a collaborative effort in a way that our work isn't usually, well, you know, on the thumbnailing side of things. But without going through all the other processes we went through, what we've actually ended up with is, again, it's just 2 panels, like in the last double page spread, and the top panel is the cat leaping and spinning through all these soldiers, and he's ripping them with his claws, and their guts are falling out, and he's leapfrogging over people and all the rest of it. But the scene of the soldiers, none of the bits of the soldiers come outside the panel borders. The panel borders are arranged in this perspective so that they actually look like, as much as possible, what I was thinking was that these are actually slices through time. Time's moving from left to right through this space, which is the scene that you would normally draw as a full panel. These are literally like doors, and the cat's flying through them, so the cat can always be outside and inside the panel borders because the cat's moving. The soldiers are always inside the panel borders, they're inside these slices or doors. It's like a corridor of doors that the cat's going through. But the picture of the soldiers, you can actually, it's probably not easy to see there, but well, you can kind of see it a bit, down the bottom especially. You know, like, it is actually just one full big scene, you know, so people can be lying across, you know, like, lying across the grass with, you know, dead, and there's people falling over and getting knocked over and all the rest of it, but you only ever see slices of it. So
they link up quite obviously, those first
yeah,
slices.
They do, yeah, but as much as possible, it's meant to, when you actually sit and look at it, it is actually, you're meant to get the fact that it is just one continuous picture, but instead of seeing it through a flat screen like a window, you're seeing it through these slices that you're at the side of, that you're seeing in perspective, so which to the cat moving from left to right through time becomes like a corridor of doors, the doors or windows being little moments in this 1 second sequence. It just eventually happened after several days of spending hours and hours and hours like trying to get something that was going to shut him up and get him off my shoulder. We done?
I think we're finished there. We're just being given the wind up from the back.
No. Right.
We didn't get on to Superman, we didn't get on to Batman. Well, this is the height of the experimentation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Well, that was illuminating.
I'll stand up right.